Hi guys, Elon Musk doesn't understand the European Union. Let's be frank about that. So he's currently in a battle with the European Commission over a fine that they have imposed on his company X, which was formerly Twitter, of 120 million euros. Now, it's related to a lack of transparency on the platform. But his response to all of this is to attack the Commission and call for the European Union to be disbanded. Have a listen to this.
Europe actually has more bureaucracy than the US does because you don't just have the provincial and sort of national level, you also have the EU on top of that. And to be totally frank, EU headquarters in Brussels is essentially a giant cathedral to bureaucracy. So if one wishes to visit the Grand Cathedral of Bureaucracy, visit EU headquarters in Brussels. I do think that Europe probably needs government efficiency more than the US does. And this needs to happen at the country level and at the EU level. And actually, I think the job is more difficult in Europe than it is in the US. I think overregulation has inhibited a tremendous amount of progress and innovation in Europe. Slow strangulation by overregulation. Because it's a slow strangulation because it's not like at any one moment you feel like this is it, but the noose around the neck just gets a little tighter every year, and eventually it's going to kill Europe. So there must be, in my opinion, immediate action to reduce regulation at the EU level, at the country level, and at the local level.
Okay, so he's right to a certain extent that innovation in Europe is falling behind, but it's not down to regulations. It's down to the fact that the European Union is not like the United States. It's not like China, where in China, the government decide one thing, massive country, the government decide and it's implemented. In the United States, you have 50 states, but they're all controlled by Washington. So Washington decides. In the European Union, it's not exactly the same. It's not a United States of Europe. He should be advocating for a United States of Europe, not for the abolition of the European Union. Because under a United States of Europe, then all the laws would be decided in Brussels, and that would be it. See, the problem in Europe is you have 27 different member states, and each member state has its own goals. When it comes to business, when it comes to trade, when it comes to foreign policy, when it comes to regulations, workers' rights, all of these things. So you have and each country has its own ethos or approach to each of these issues. While the European Union is trying to regulate at a minimum level, it's the individual countries that either increase the standards or maintain those standards. Now, where he's right is that yes, the European Union is falling behind when it comes to certain innovation, for example, AI. But when we look at, for example, social media, which is very similar to AI, the phenomenon of that, the European Union was there to protect consumers, users of social media, to protect them from lies and misinformation. And we've seen, for example, companies like Facebook and Google receive fines because they didn't respect the rules. So while in the United States, these companies are allowed to let the social media phenomenon run wild, and we've seen the consequences of that. Once again, social media is a double-edged sword. It has positives and it has negatives. The original goal of social media was to bring people together, but we've seen how social media has created division in society, division in people's communities as well. Now, Musk doesn't seem to understand the value of regulations. Yes, when you think about bureaucracy, we all think about it as red tape, we think about it as overbearing. And maybe some aspects of regulations in Europe are overbearing. But regulations are there to protect consumers and to protect businesses. Like, for example, we've seen how wines, cheeses, and foods, typical European foods, are protected at the European level. And it would be much more difficult and much more expensive if individual nations acted alone. For example, an example I've given before is feta cheese. Greek feta cheese is protected at the European level. If Greece was not a member of the European Union, it would not have the same protection in place. And that's just feta cheese. That's just one regulation, but it's there to protect a national dish or a national cheese. The EU also sets standards on the international stage, and countries around the world who are not directly trading with the European Union or maybe trading with their neighbours are actually using the EU standards and that standardization because it's easier. So while EU regulations are there to protect consumers and businesses, they can be a problem, but the solution cannot be to remove countries from the European Union, because it's not in the interests of the citizens of Europe. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.